Welcome to the OR Today webinar series. We're excited to have over 120 registered attendees for today's webinar. Just a reminder that our 4th annual OR Today Live Surgical Conference will be held August 26th to 28th in Nashville, Tennessee. Join us to discover new opportunities, broaden your knowledge, and exchange ideas. If you register before June the 30th, you can save $50 by entering the promo code SUMMERSAVER. That's SUMMERSAVER. For more information, please visit ortodaylive.com. Let's kick off today's webinar by giving an OR Today Live surprise pack to the attendees that can tell me the answer to the following trivia question. June is National Rose Month. Which state produces 60% of roses grown in the US? Answer now using the questions feature on your dashboard. While you're answering, I want to remind you today's webinar is eligible for 1 continuing education hour. To obtain your certificate, you must complete the post-webinar survey, which will appear immediately on your computer screen at the end of today's call. 1 lucky attendee will have the opportunity to win an Amazon gift card courtesy of OR Today just for completing the survey. Okay, and let's see who the winner of our OR Today Live surprise pack is. And it is, where we go, we have Robert Hance. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Congratulations, Robert. The correct answer is California. Our presenter today is Jim Stabinsky, CEO of the CCI. Jim, you may begin whenever you are ready.
All right. Thank you very much, Linda. And could I just get a check? Is the audio going well, Linda? All right, so I'm going to get started, and Linda, if you would, if there's any problems with the audio, I will look for your message, and I'm going to proceed. I'm Jim Stabinsky. Thank you so much for coming to this presentation, and our presentation today is CE is not a commodity, and you will see the CNOR logo here on the first slide. I'm the CEO of the Competency and Credentialing Institute, CCI, and we are the people that administer the CNOR credential. Some of what I talk to you about today is going to involve the credential, CNOR, and also another credential that we have, CSSM, and the context of certification helps to frame that. So you should know, I'm the CEO of CCI. I'm an operating room nurse. I've been an operating room nurse for 30-some years, and I'm also an adjunct professor. I teach at Nova Southeastern University in Florida and also Wilkes University in Pennsylvania, mainly teaching graduate students and doctoral candidates. So let's get started with our presentation. I do have to show you this disclaimer. I'm required to show you this. It is an accreditation requirement for nursing certification programs. Basically, we do certification. We have nurses that work for CCI. We're out and about. We speak, we write. But we do have to tell you that listening to us talk to you about certification, CE, professional development matters, gives you no special advantage. And I am required to tell you that, and whenever we present, we do show you these slides. So there we go. I've covered the disclaimer. Here's our objectives. I want to talk to you about 1 recommendation from a report that was done in 2010 by the Institute of Medicine. We often hear of the IOM report, but many people, especially in nursing, when they hear IOM report, think of the Future of Nursing report, a very influential report that came out about a year after this report. I want to speak to you about a report that was put out called Redesigning Continuing Education in the Health Professions. I want to touch about the current methods that we use for continuous professional development of American healthcare workers, mainly focused on nursing, and then talk to you about two key features of a future professional development system proposed by one nursing certification organization, and that's CCI. And as a prelude to this, you may have already heard that changes are coming in perioperative nursing certification, the programs that are administered by CCI. You may have already heard some rumors of this, perhaps people coming back from trade shows, things like that. All of that is possible, that you've already heard about it, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to hear CCI's side of the story as it relates to CE, and you have ample opportunity to ask questions. So we do have a polling feature in today's presentation. You will not see the poll on my slides, but you will see it on your computer. Linda, who did the introduction, would administer the poll. So I have a total of 3 questions, 2 of them here at the start, and then 1 at the very end. So this is our first question. Why do you do CE? As a nurse, why do you do CE? Linda has the poll open, and here we have multiple choices. So you may pick all that apply. We'll give it a minute or 2 here, and then Linda will let us know what the results are, because I cannot see the polling screen, and we're going to let Linda give us the results. And we will have another question here in about 1 minute. So once you become familiar with the polling, we have another question coming up. Linda?
Okay, yes, Jim, we'll just a couple more seconds. We just need a few more people to vote, and then I will close the poll. I think that's about it. So I'm just about to close the poll, and I will give you the results. Okay, we have 57% for my nursing license, 70% to fulfill my nursing certification requirements, 73% for the love of learning, and 19% for some other reason.
Okay, Linda, thank you. So let's just speak briefly to that answer. And I must tell you, it's the first time I've used a polling mechanism. I am actually a bit surprised. When we talk to people as we're out and about doing presentations, most people will tell you that they do CE either to keep their nursing license or to fulfill certification requirements. This is actually, this is a positive result for me to see what your feedback is here. Number one, because it appears many of you hold a certification, and I would think many of those are going to be the CCI certifications in the operating room. That's great. But I love to see the third answer where you said for the love of learning. Now, it could be this audience is different than, the average nurse in practice. It could be because I suspect many of you are in management and leadership roles. But this is actually a good thing, and I'm going to speak to this as we go on. So I want to give you, in this presentation, I want to give you some things to think about how we think about CE, continuous professional development. Why do we engage in learning as we go through our career, and what does it mean? You may recognize this statue. This is actually from a museum in Paris where the sculptor Rodin lived for a good part of his life. This is not the original thinker statue. It's a casting done from the original mold. But the point, I'm going to give you some things to think about in CE. But now we come to question number 2. And again, the polling mechanism. This is the second question. And then we'll have a third question in the end. The poll is now open for you. Here is the question. As a nurse, what is the importance of evidence-based practice in your daily work? And in here, we only get one choice. And if I have this correct, when you set up the poll, Linda, very important, somewhat important, these are your choices, but you can pick just one choice.
Yes, it's very important, important, neutral, not important, or not important at all. So we are, I think we're probably there. I'm just going to close down the poll. And we have 83% of very important, 6% at important, 9% at neutral, and 3% not important. Unfortunately, 0% not important at all. So there you go.
Okay. And I will say in this poll, I'm not surprised because increasingly in our practice, the use of evidence becomes more and more important. When we consider things like accountable care organizations, value-based purchasing, the use of evidence, the standardization of practice, optimizing patient results for patients are becoming increasingly important. I will say though, remember that question because we're going to come back to it at the very end of my presentation in a slightly different context. So now let's talk about CE. And I will get to the part about commodity, but first, let's explore how we use CE in credentialing, because that's really the context for CCI. And the use of CE is very big in what we do in certification. So let's begin there. And the other thing I will tell you, if you downloaded the handouts, this presentation will follow very closely to those. There were a couple slides I did edits to in the last day or so, but it will follow very closely if you wish to take notes. The other thing is, if you would like a copy of this presentation, if you'll type that in, Linda will track that, and we will get you a copy of the presentation. So the current state, this is the state of the world for nursing certification organizations. There's an extensive use in certification, recertification processes of CE. And as you stated in your poll response, it's also used by many state boards of nursing, not all, but many, and it's widely used in other American healthcare professions. Doctors, surgeons, they have a similar process, slightly different terminology. In other healthcare, even beyond healthcare, many professions use some form of continuing education. How did we get here? This is a long established familiar method that has been with us. I've been in nursing 30 plus years, and it's been a part of nursing as long as I can remember. The concept of continuing your education, additional learning, has been with us for many years. It's used by a variety of professions in healthcare, surgical techs, central processing, surgeons, nurse anesthetists, advanced practice nurses who work in the operating room. Many different professions use it. It's logical. It's easily quantified. I think that makes sense to us in the operating room. Easy to work with. It's very familiar, and it's tangible. You get CE certificates, easy to quantify, and then you can keep track of these, and it all adds up. It's very easy to use. Many licensing boards use it. Not all of them, but 30, 35 out of the state boards of nursing use some sort of continuing professional development requirement, often including a CE component to keep your license, to renew your license. And as I said, it's convenient, easily understood, and for many of us, it's a method that we've been using our entire career. But there are some issues with CE, and those issues were really brought forward in that 2010 report. That 2010 report, sadly, timing is everything. That report, as good as it was and as much potential as it had, was overshadowed in nursing because within a year we had the Future of Nursing report. And this very well put together report was overshadowed and essentially eclipsed by the Future of Nursing report. This is the report. This is available from the National Academies Press. redesigning continuing education in health professions. If you have your web-enabled device, you can put in National Academies Press and this title, and you can get this publication for free. If you wish the PDF copy, so you can download the PDF, read it as you wish, make notes in it, etc., and print it. You can print it off your own printer at work, put it in a notebook. If you wish to buy a soft cover, you can. This is a picture from their bookstore. I have no connection to the National Academies Press, but as a U.S. citizen, you are entitled to these publications without charge in the PDF version. So both this and the IOM report on the future of nursing, available to you without charge. But the genesis for this presentation came from the thoughts that were presented in this report. And I'd like to share some of those thoughts with you. From this report, here's some notable sections of text. In this report, they stated that there's major flaws in the way CE is conducted, financed, regulated, and evaluated. They maintain in this report that the healthcare workforce is not optimally prepared to give the highest quality of care or to meet public expectations for quality and safety in using CE. Also, they say that the science underpinning CE for health professionals, it's fragmented, it's not well developed, and quite frankly, the evidence behind using CE and the effects on your competence and better patient care is not very strong. These shortcomings have made it difficult, almost impossible, to identify what are the effective educational methods, and then how do we integrate those methods into coordinated, broad-based programs that meet the needs of the health professionals working in the U.S., but also the education needs in a rapidly shifting healthcare environment. CE, in its current state, is not well suited to meet those needs. I will also share with you, I attended a professional workshop hosted by an accreditation organization. There's a speaker there from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. The National Chamber of Commerce, entire United States, and this person's role was to coordinate education processes in the needs of employers, to get them the properly educated, the right employees to meet the employer's needs. And he made a very telling statement. He talked about the use of continuing education, CE, across a wide variety of professions, to include healthcare in America. And he said there's a problem here. The idea of CE in and of itself is a neutral thing, not bad, but the issue is once you begin using CE and place it within a system, it becomes a commodity. And he said that's one of the main issues with using CE by any profession. There's a big assumption in the use of CE. We have a slippery slope here. We assume that CE works, that it's going to positively impact your competency and ultimately results in better patient care. That's a slippery slope. Once you make that assumption, and it's convenient, it's easy to use, easy to quantify, then you place that into a system, then CE becomes a commodity. And as I'm trying to picture here, it becomes a slippery slope that we become dependent on CE and you continue to use it, but you don't question the assumptions under it and whether that actually works. So the slippery slope analogy. Also in the IOM report from 2010, they maintain that we need a new comprehensive vision of how do we do professional development. We need to replace the culture that now envelops continuing education, this whole context and all the assumptions. We need to change that. This vision is going to be key in how we address the flaws and examine CE as it's currently used. And we need to ensure that all health professionals engage effectively in a process of lifelong learning, continuous professional development. But the goal of this is not fulfilling CE requirements and accumulating certificates, but ultimately, whatever method we come to, will it improve patient care and population health? Sadly, CE for nursing licensure and for many certification organizations, it has become a commodity. And that leads us to some other issues, but nurses tend to do a very quick equation when they think about CE. That leads us to sites like this. In just a statement, I'm going to show you a couple places where you can accumulate CE and purchase it. I'm not making any judgment of the quality of their content because many of these courses are accredited. I'm talking about the nature of CE as a commodity. We see here, this is a website called nurse.com. And we accept, at CCI, we accept their materials because they're accredited. But notice right here to the right, unlimited CE for $49.95 a year. You could, if you needed 125 CEs to maintain your certification, your CNOR, you could go here and the price would be under $50 to do that, plus your time. Here's net CE. And at one time I held a Texas nursing license. So, you know, the catered ads, I received this ad. Texas nurses, get your CEs for $21 fast. 23 contact hours, $21. Nurses do the math. It's a commodity. If I need 125 CEs to maintain my certification or my Texas nursing license, do the math. If I needed 23 hours in certain areas, NetCE can provide that for $21. This seems like a pretty good deal. If you'll notice here, they have a course, Texas Jurisprudence and Ethics. They know in each state what you need to keep your license, and they can provide it to you in a very efficient manner. It's a business, but it is a commodity, and nurses will do this math and figure it out. I need 125 hours, $49.95. That's less than $1 an hour. And so it becomes a commodity. There are influences here. So our programs are accredited, and the what the accreditation agencies put to us in their standards, CCI has to pay attention. Just like state boards of nursing, you know, there's larger organizations here. So how accreditation views use of CE is part of the equation, which we must pay attention to. So I will bet that many of you are accredited. So just as you have Joint Commission, DNB, if you're in ambulatory surgery, it could be triple AHC, quadruple ASF, your facility is accredited, and you must pay attention to that. You don't truly get a choice if you want to maintain your accreditation. So just as your organization is accredited, so is CCI programs. There are two major players in the accreditation thing for nursing certification programs. One of them is ABSNC, the other is NCCA. There's a difference here. For your hospital, they may accredit the hospital or the health system or one building. For our programs, they credit the different certifications. For CNOR, our biggest credential, it's accredited by both ABSNC and NCCA. ABSNC is only nursing organizations. NCCA accredits nursing, healthcare organizations, and a wide variety of other professions to include auto mechanics, financial planners, crane operators, nurses, doctors, a wide variety. Full disclosure, I must tell you that I'm the president of the board for ABSNC, so you should also know that. but that does give me insight. I know the workings of ABSNC because of that. So what these organizations have to say to us, it is very much like your relationship with Joint Commission or DNV. As those are to your healthcare facilities, these groups, NCCA, ABSNC, that's how my relationship is with them for my credentials. And these are the three accredited credentials. CNOR holds both NCCA and ABSNC. CSSM is accredited by ABSNC. CRNFA is accredited by NCCA. So if you think back to your latest visit from the Joint Commission, they sometimes come in and they may observe a process in your facility and make recommendations to you. And they could say, I've just observed this process. I think you could do it better. And I suggest that you change your process, rewrite your policy, show me evidence of that, and we'll say that you're in compliance. At that point, we don't typically try to argue the point. We take the advice of the surveyor, make those changes, and maintain our accreditation status. So just as we typically don't argue with Joint Commission surveyors in the hospital or your surgery center, I don't argue with the NCCA and ABSNC folks. So what they tell me in their standards, if I wish to maintain my accreditation for these programs, I do have to comply. So here are some of their thoughts about the use of CE, continuous professional development. What is the role of a certification? For NCCA, they define continuing competency as demonstrating knowledge, skills, or ability not only at the time of certification, but throughout an individual's professional career. ABSNC, a similar statement. Accredited certifying organizations such as CCI must reassess certification and recertification processes periodically and continue to improve methods of evaluating certificates' competencies. So they have a different view here. They're talking about not just attending a class, but the processes that we have in place for recertification have to affect in a positive manner your competency. And that's one of the issues we come to with CE. For many years, whether the State Board of Nursing, your certification organization, the relationship was basically the nurse and the organization. And you can substitute the State Board of Nursing, but this whole relationship was really between you and one of these organizations and how they told you that you had to use CE. That relationship has changed. Because now, in the little symbol we have right here of the building, outside institutions like government agencies, CMS, there are different expectations for the competency of healthcare workers to include nurses and those nurses certified or licensed that work in the operating room. The expectations have changed, and now we must take into account also the expectations of other organizations, and for us, those are the accreditation organizations. The net result of all of this, recommendations to the Institute of Medicine, changing expectations of consumers, government agencies, accreditation agencies, is we have to question how we've been using CE and is it effective? We're essentially in a position where we have to blow up the system, thus the picture of the bomb. We have to blow up the system and rethink how we're doing things. This is a significant challenge for both boards of nursing, for certification organizations, because one of the basic foundations we've been using for decades is CE as part of the system, and we assume that it works. There are alternatives, and some of these are spelled out. So rather than continuing to use CE and that question, is it effective, there are alternatives. For accreditation purposes for us, for our credentials, both ABSNC and NCCA have said that we must move to a more robust system of continuing professional development that takes into consideration competency, the certificate's learning needs, and simply saying that we use CE, and we require 125 every 5 years, giving them a number, that is no longer sufficient. So some of the choices that we have are contained in that other IOM report. Some of what they say in there, that research is being conducted that demonstrates additional requirements for continuous competency will translate into clinically significant improved patient outcomes. It's not that this has never been said for CE, it's just that the evidence as it currently exists is not convincing. Other methods are being shown to be more effective when we talk about affecting competency, clinical competency, and patient outcomes. When we talk about competence, the purposes of ensuring competency to protect the public, in our case in nursing, to advance the profession, and to ensure the integrity of professional nursing and meet the public's expectations. Continuing competency, specified levels of knowledge, skills, ability, not only at the time of initial certification, not just when you pass the exam, but throughout your professional career. That is the expectation if we are to remain accredited. What will a new system look like? What could it look like? And how could we do this better? Some of the components, and this is a very large picture here, and all the details are not in yet, only that we have to change, and these are some of the things we must consider. We will need needs assessment to guide the continuous professional development providers and learners, not just providing a commodity, a number of CE, but we need to do more than that for the learners. We need to do assessments, reflection activities. We need more interactive learning. We need continuous integrated feedback, a more interactive experience between the learner and the provider. And we need to use multiple learning methods, not just the presentation with an eval. And we have to link this to quality improvement activities. What are the needs of the learner, both at the facility, the unit level, and the individual level, and how do we meet those needs? There are some resources to guide our efforts. I would hope you've heard of the name Patricia Benner, the novice to expert theory. She's written a number of works, but she talks of the need to master 3 areas in nursing. If you wish to be successful in nursing, you need to master 3 areas, and she calls them the 3 apprenticeships. The one that's most important here to this discussion is intellectual training. She refers to that as the academic knowledge base. We have to continually stay current with that knowledge base, acknowledge that it exists. It's not merely a matter of rote learning, but whatever we do in our continuing education, that we continue to refresh in this academic knowledge base and engage in the intellectual learning. That's some of what continuous professional development could do. We also know what nurses do in their roles. So in the operating room, the basis of certification is something called a job task analysis or job analysis, sometimes called a role delineation study. We do these every 3 to 5 years for our credentials. We establish what, by nationwide consensus, scientifically rigorous process, what do nurses do in the operating room and the knowledge they need to do those tasks. So we can cater education using that information. We can cater education to what nurses actually do in the operating room. The same is true for CSSM, the management credential, a different job analysis, but we know that task and knowledge for that too. So we can use that to build education processes and activities. And finally, and I just realized this, when I downloaded these images. So we actually get a little wave motion there in the flag. There are other countries that are already doing this and doing it pretty well. Canada, Great Britain, and Australia all have more rigorous, better developed methodology for keeping your nursing license, even aside from certification, just to keep your license. There are examples that we can learn from these countries that do it very well. So to reshape the system, to blow it up and start refining it and rebuilding it, there are other examples, both in theory and in very practical examples from other countries in how we could do this. So if we do have to change the system, where do we go from here? If we acknowledge that there's gaps in CE, we have to do it better, where do we go from here? CCI, state boards of nursing, and there are some that are very progressive here. We see that there are opportunities for certification and membership organizations to do this better. CCI and other certification credentialing organizations, we're in the midst of a transition. We're changing from being kind of a quasi-regulatory agency like the State Board of Nursing, a record-keeping agency that you occasionally interact with, send them information, pay them fees. We're changing that. We want to use this opportunity to partner with you in your professional development. To make this transition, we have to change. CCI and our programs must change, just like state boards of nursing are changing. We're well aware that this is going to be very disruptive. We spoke to this at the recent ARN Surgical Conference and Expo in New Orleans, and I can tell you this is quite upsetting to many people to find out that we're going to change from a system that's heavily reliant on CE. There are some people who found that very disruptive, and they were pretty vocal in sharing their opinions with us. This change is a necessity. If we're going to meet our commitment to our patients, and if CCI is to maintain their accreditation status, we must change. The current methods will no longer suffice. I can also tell you this is going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. This is a picture of a battleship. Some of you may recognize it. Linda, I am going to, I have a prize. So for the first person who can tell me what the name of this battleship is, please let me know who answers first. And
okay, I will.
We'll send them a prize.
Okay.
All right, so if you know the answer, type that in and Linda will track this for me. All right, for some of us who are mature enough to remember this phrase, this thing about changing this entire method using CE, this is going to be like trying to turn a battleship. And this battleship has been moored here for about 50 years. This one will be darn difficult to turn, but it's going to be difficult. We fully acknowledge that. Linda, do we have some answers?
We do. If you could tell me the answer, I can pick a winner.
Okay, the answer is this is the USS Texas. It's near Houston, San Jacinto State Park, and it is the only American battleship still afloat that served in World War I and World War II.
Okay, well, the first person to actually say it was Texas was Teresa Stanford.
All right, Teresa. So if you will type in your answer, I will send you either a copy of the new CNOR exam guide or the CSSM exam guide. Type in your contact information for Linda, and I will send that to you in the next week or so. And thank you for knowing that answer. So the point, this is like trying to turn a battleship. It's going to be hard, and we know that. What does the future look like for us? Let me give you some thoughts now in the very early part of the process. We are going to move to more activity-based recertification methods. There's a template in how to do this. The Canadians, the Brits, the Australians, they're already doing it. Other groups, the surgeons, certified materials resource professionals, and other nursing certification groups have already gone there. We're actually a bit behind. It's the nature of our accreditation cycle. We've not had to do this as early as these other groups. The other nursing organizations that you see here, they've all made the transition already to the system. We can learn from what they suffered through as they changed, but there are examples here for us. I will tell you that the new system will not do away with CE. It will still have some part, but it won't be the main part of a new system. We're going to move to a more activity-based system where you will get credit for things that you may well be doing already on your job every day. These are just some examples. If anyone has recertified for either the CSSM credential or use the portfolio method with CNOR or the points method for CNOR, there will be many common elements. And last year, almost 500 nurses recertified their CNOR using the points method. So some of these things that are on here may well be components of a new system. The future state, we're going to have a wide variety of activities you can use for your recertification methods to include some CE. All of them have not yet been determined. Some elements of the current points method are going to be incorporated into the new system. Additional activities will be added as the system evolves. The new system is going to shift from just a logging system, a record-keeping system, to activities based in a learning management system, an LMS. People ask, what is CCI, when I pay those fees for my research, my certification, what do they do with that money? We are investing in an association management system and a learning management system that will change the way that we do recertification and ultimately will help to improve your competency. That's what we invest in. We have an LMS. We purchased it and we're using it right now. We're building it. If you are familiar with Blackboard or Canvas that are often used, or D2L, these are commonly used in university settings. We have a similar system, and ours is called Freestone. We have our association management system is called NetForum, and a component of that, integrated to that, is the learning management system called Freestone. We're going to use that to keep all of these learning activities. These points that are accumulated, if you're certified with us, the things that you do in the LMS, you don't have to log them again. You go into the system, into your account, you do your learning activities, or you log in the learning activities you did elsewhere, and they will flow directly into your certification record and track them for you in NetForum. This is an actual screenshot of Freestone. This is our learning management system, and we're using it right now. And we're building up events in there. If you are taking prep for cert courses with us, like preparing for the CSSM exam, that's what's in here. So what you will have is you will log into your system just like you do now if you're certified with us, or if you have a record, as I do with the State Board of Nursing of California, you log into that system and these courses will be in front of you. You have a wide choice of learning activities and you fulfill those to earn your points, which will accumulate and then allow you to recertify. This is a lot to take in. What does this timeline look like? Because ultimately people want to know, well, how does this affect me? Am I going to have to deal with this? So when will this shift to a different method? When is this going to start? For those nurses who take the CNOR exam and pass in January of 19, they will be enrolled in this new system, and this is the only thing that they will know. For those who are currently hold the CSSM, this is the method. They're enrolled in a very similar system already. So this is what they know. Gradually, all CNORs will be enrolled in the new system as they recertify. Likely the year 2019 and 2020 will only be the people taking the exam. CNORs, they get enrolled in the new system. Until they recertify, nurses will just complete whatever method they choose to use right now. Let's say you're due to recertify in 2021. You will continue to use whatever method you choose in our current system, CE points, whatever method you choose, you can use that until you recertify. We will not ask you to change in the middle of the method. No certificate's going to be forced to join the new system in the middle of their earning accrual period. But once you hit 2021, when you recertify, you will then be enrolled in the new system, and we'll explain all of that, give you the information so you can use the new system. Here's the key points in this whole use of CE. We need to change CE from being a commodity to being a meaningful part of your learning and your continuous professional development. The relationship between things like the State Board of Nursing and CCI, the relationship with the certificates is going to change. For us, we want to become your partner, your facilitator of your learning, your continuous professional development versus just a record-keeping system. You're going to have to take a more active role in your learning. It won't be a passive exercise where you just go sit in a chair and listen to someone speak and get a certificate. It will look a little bit more like a college course. For some of you, that works pretty well. For others, it's going to be a distinct change. I will tell you, though, that when you log into your system, if you're certified with us, all of the learning activities that you need to earn enough points will be in that system. And you may choose from a wide variety of activities, listening to a lecture, reading a white paper and doing a quiz, doing a reflective learning experience. All of those will be in the system and available to you. You can also log in some CE into the system, log in your college course, things that will earn you points, your volunteer experience, your committee service, you can log them all in. But if you do nothing at your workplace and you only connect with CCI, those activities will be available to you when you log into the system. There will be no additional charge if you're certified to access those learning activities. All the activities that you need to recertify are going to be contained in your account in the LMS that is linked to your certification record keeping. I wish to reiterate that there will be no additional charge if you are certified. If you pay a fee to us to be certified and maintain your certification, there will be no additional fee for CEs, anything else, if you stay within our system. It's like going to college. You pay your tuition, everything's there, that's it. So the expense of going to membership meetings, etc., or paying for CE, even if it's $49.95 for unlimited CE, you will no longer have that expense. There will be no additional charge. You will no longer have to pay for CE because we realize that CE should not be the mainstay of your system. And if we take that whole foundation out, we have to provide you for something else. We're going to provide you a system in which there's no additional charge. It'll be a more robust and challenging system than just sitting through a CE presentation, but there'll be no additional charge. So you can continue to do some CE, but you won't be required to if you wish to be certified with the Competency and Credentialing Institute. So we're taking out CE as a commodity, and we're changing that whole equation. Some final thoughts, and again, this is from that 2010 report. In the current era of health reform, the transformation of CE offers an actionable agenda to begin the alignment of learning with the public expectations and the needs of health professionals. We have a great opportunity here, but we need to change CE from thinking of it as a commodity, accumulated, and it's good, it works, it will impact my competency. We need to change that. And as a profession, we can do that. The hallmarks of a profession like nursing should define the body of knowledge. That's our responsibility. We should expand and refine that body of knowledge to include evidence-based practice. That's also our responsibility. That's part of being a profession. And CCI maintains that we have an ethical responsibility to our patients to do that. We also believe that our ethical responsibility is not strictly confined to clinical care. I told you we would come back to that question, and here's where I need Linda's help again. Let's go all the way back to that question. I asked, this was the second question earlier, reconsider your answer in this context. As a nurse working in the operating room, how important is it to use evidence-based practice for all of your practice? Not just clinical. What's the most effective way to do skin prep, things like that, but also for practices like professionalism, human resource practices, things like that. How important is it to use evidence-based practice in all of what we do? And if that is the case, then evidence about how we do things like CE, how important should that be to our practice? And answer again in light of the information I've given you. And Linda?
Okay, Jim, I'm going to close the poll now. We have 82% at very important and 12% important, 6% at neutral, and 0% for not important and not important at all.
Well, that's very encouraging, and it appears that you're receptive to my message. Here's Jim's thoughts as the CEO of CCI. I think if evidence-based practice should be part of our practice, we should embrace that in all facets of our job, to include things like how do we use CE and professional development methods. If the evidence isn't there, and we have some very smart people telling us we should rethink this, I think we should be attuned to that. That's my message. The evidence is out there. It's up to us as a profession how we use that and how we react. And here's a quote. I think we have an opportunity here. For those of you that know me, you know that I like theater, and I particularly love Shakespeare. This is from Julius Caesar. I use this quote a lot. There's a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. Omitted, all the voyage of their life is bound in shallows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat. And we must take the current when it serves or lose our ventures. CCI believes that nursing has an opportunity now to make these changes, and we want to be part of that, and we want to be your partner as we improve this and make it better for the future. Here's some of my selected references, and as I said earlier, I will gladly share my slides. This is my contact information. If you wish to call me or send me an email or set an appointment, I will gladly go over more of this with you. And that concludes my presentation. And Linda, I think we've opened it up for questions.
Yes, we have got a few questions. One question is CCI required to have accreditation for audit certification programs? There are many organizations that claim to
do certifications that do not hold accreditation. CCI is not one of those. We hold the highest standards of accreditation. This is particularly true for CNOR. We're accredited by both ABSNC and NCCA, which is a very high standard. Not absolutely required, but we set that standard. We have maintained that for decades now, and we don't intend to change that and lessen our standards. So if the accreditation organizations say you must change and we're going to hold you to a higher standard, we're going to do everything we can to maintain our accreditation.
Okay, that's great. And will you make me change my recertification process in the middle of my recertification cycle?
We will not. So if you are due to recert, then let's use the example of 2021. You will continue to use whatever process you're using right now. If you've made a decision you're going to recert by CE, you will need to have 125 CEs, 75 minimum directly related to perioperative care, and you just continue to do those. Wherever you get your accredited CE, continue to do that. That could be ARN Surgical Conference and Expo, OR Manager, OR Today Live, whatever method. My CE broker, continue to accumulate that, meet the standards. When you come to 2021, you'll do that process, complete it, recertify, and at that point, you'll be enrolled in the new system and gain access to the new system. And we will thoroughly explain that to you, answer your questions, and then start you into the new system.
That's great. We're actually coming up to our hour, but I've got time for one more question. Do I need to change my professional plans to de-emphasize using CE?
You don't have to do that currently. You could, if you wanted to make a transition, you could begin using a points method, and all of that information is available on our website and our handbooks, certification, recertification handbooks. You could do that as a transition step to get ready for the new system, but it's not required. So until you hit your recertification year, there's no need to make any changes. Our hope is the nurses who certify in the year 2019 and pass the exam, they just become used to the new system. That's our intent, to make it seamless and minimize your pain and discomfort. That's our goal. If you're licensed in some states like North Carolina, Texas, they're in the midst of these sorts of changes too, and we're trying to learn from those and be good to our certificates and pay attention to their needs. That's, as we convert the system, we're trying to be very attentive to that.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Jim, for a great and informative webinar. Just a reminder that one lucky attendee today will win an Amazon gift card for completing the post-webinar survey, which will appear on your screen shortly. For more information on our upcoming OR Today webinars, please visit our website, ortoday.com/webinars. Thank you once again for joining us today, and we hope to see you next time. Have a great day.